The Linn-Mar Board of Directors meeting will be called to order at 5 p.m. in the boardroom of the Learning Resource Center. Can you please take roll to determine quorum?
Buckholz.
Here.
Morey.
Here.
Nelson.
Here.
Rollinger.
Here.
Walker.
Here.
Wall.
Here.
And Weaver.
Here.
Quorum is
I make a
present.
motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
Second.
A motion by Clark and a second by Melissa. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. We are going to kick off this evening with some special recognitions. And first up, we have Mary Beth from ISBO to present Dave Nicholson with the ISBO Iowa Professional Leadership Award. So go ahead.
Thank you. I am Mary Beth Fast, and I'm the Executive Director for the Iowa Association of School Business Officials. And I'm honored to be here tonight to present Dave Nicholson with part of the awards that he's won. Initially, he was presented with this plaque type thing for his desk, which he received at our spring conference. And tonight, I gave to him a $1,000 scholarship to be given to a Linn-Mar graduating senior of your determination. And that is part of the Iowa Professional Leadership Award that he has won. Only 2 of those are given in the state. It's very prestigious. Really, it's our IASBO's highest honor that we give. And it's a recognition not just of his work in school districts, but his leadership and his community efforts and just his overall presence. And Dave has been a school business official for 27 years. He served as a mentor. He served on the IASBO Board of Directors. He's been a regional director, and he's also a past president. So very deserving of this award, and I am glad to call him a friend as well. So congratulations to Linn-Mar and to Dave Nicholson.
Joining us tonight.
Congrats, David.
Also, to thank Mary Beth for coming. She lives in Southwest Iowa, so for her to make the time to come all the way here tonight, we appreciate your willingness to come all the way here.
Thank
So,
you very
thank you.
much.
Thank you.
Safe travels home.
Yes. Congratulations, David.
Yes, congratulations, Dave. And don't think that if we make the students turn around and wave, we're going to make you turn around. So, okay, next up, I'm going to turn it over to Lisa, who's stepping in for Carla and who's going to talk about our Lions and Volunteer Award recipients for this year.
Yes, thank you so much. I feel very awful that Carla is not feeling well this evening, but I am very honored and very excited to be able to present Linn-Mar's Lions Awards this evening. So we're going to start off with the L, the first one, which is the Living Legend Award for Excellence in Leadership. And we have Marcia Grassfield, who is a first grade teacher here at Wilkins, and she was nominated by Michelle Dalton. Marcia has taught with Linn-Mar for 34 years. She's led students and staff by participating on committees, engaging in new curriculum with a positive attitude and enthusiasm, and unofficially mentoring many of the new first grade teachers that have come through Wilkins. By bringing her best self to students and staff daily, she helps them achieve their full potential. Congratulations, Marcia. We are lucky enough to have 2 recipients of the L Award tonight, and the other Living Legend Award for Excellence in Leadership is Carla Terry. Carla Terry is retired from our Community Relations Coordinator for the district, and she was nominated by Angela Burke. Carla has supported the district for 30 years, building and leading a successful volunteer program that supported all of Linn-Mar's staff and students. She got to know each volunteer, she helped them feel supported and involved in our district. Through her hard work, creativity, and support, her volunteer program logged 564,092 minutes under her watch. That is legendary. Congratulations, Carla. We have our I. Our I is Innovator Award for Excellence in Positive Change. And we are pleased to announce that Ben Sanders received this award. We have Donna and Jeff, his parents, here as recipients. And I'm just thankful to call Ben a friend of ours. So, he was nominated by Elizabeth Bergen. Ooh. And sadly passed away in 2022. He was an integral part of the technology department here at Linn-Mar. The district's needs were always met through his innovative solutions, from creating a frequently asked questions page available 24/7 to recreating infrastructures with the team from scratch. His number one priority was to meet those needs with an often very creative solution. Thank you so much, Ben, for all that you did for Linn-Mar. Candace is our O. She's our optimizer for excellence and teamwork winner. And she is a second grade teacher here at Echo Hill. She was nominated by all of her Echo Hill friends. They're your people, which include Crystal, Diane, Shannon, and Angie. Candace has encouraged collaboration, teamwork, and positivity daily at Linn-Mar. She shares her teaching methods with her peers on professional development days, and she regularly opens her classroom for anyone who wishes to come see her innovative teaching strategies in action. Through her commitment to learning, her peers and her students all succeed. Congratulations, Candace. We have our N for our newcomer for excellence in ideas, and this award goes to Kristen Fechner. She is our associate principal at Hazel Point Intermediate School, and she was nominated by Jenna Bulkin. Kristen has supported Hazel Point for less than 1 year, but has already made significant impacts through her leadership, communication, and relationship building skills. Her integrity in restructuring team meetings, her encouragement in highlighting positive things for students and staff, and her willingness to connect in any way she can has inspired students and staff alike to achieve greater things. Congratulations, Kristen. All right, our S is Service for Excellence in Superior Performance, and our award winner is Debbie Steen. She's a reading teacher at Bowman Woods Elementary, and she was nominated by Kim Ganson and Mary Simmons. Debbie has given the district 26 incredible years, sharing her wealth of knowledge with her students and her peers alike. Her love of her students and her love of learning has invigorated her students year after year. She immerses them in incredibly unique units and helps them develop their own love of reading and learning. Through her unique and engaging units and books, students have been able to reach new heights. Congratulations, Debbie. We have the Lion Pride Award of Going the Extra Mile, and this goes to Val Lawrence. And Val is a school facilitator at Bowman Woods Elementary. She was nominated by Tina March. For nearly 10 years, Val has been going the extra mile at Bowman Woods with her Linn-Mar pride, contagious laugh, and dedicated heart. She's always ready to be the voice of her staff that she oversees to ensure their needs are being met at the building and at the district level. She builds relationships with the most at-risk students to help them start their day in the best way that they can. Her compassion and commitment to our students and staff is felt every day. Congratulations, Val. We have another Lion Pride Award of Going the Extra Mile, and that is for Laura Whitson. She's a student support associate at Novak Elementary, and she was nominated by Ryan Phillips. Novak has been the proud recipient of Laura's dedication and support for the last 8 years and counting. Laura has taken her role as Student Support Associate above and beyond by creating and implementing new response and incentive plans for staff to use with students. Every student benefits from Laura's kindness, generosity, and compassion. She's not just the ones that she directly supports. The district is fortunate to have her caring personality on our team. Congratulations, Laura. Our Shirley Pantini Award is for excellence in equity, and that goes to Anne Fry. Anne is an English teacher at Linn-Mar High School, and she was nominated by Gayla Burgess. In Anne's 20-plus years of teaching, she has included, encouraged, and empowered hundreds of students to reach higher and challenge themselves to reach their full potential. These students come from all backgrounds, abilities, and experiences. She doesn't see any student as incapable of being part of the group, and she recognizes everyone has a special set of skills that can shine as brightly as the next. The district has reaped the benefits of her innate ability to encourage and inspire others to be the best and most inclusive that they can be. Congratulations, Anne. That was just a preview of the small, kind words. There's so many more things to say about the wonderful people that have received these awards. So we hope that you join us for the Lions Award reception, which will be Wednesday, May 3rd, 5 p.m., right here in the boardroom. Thank you.
Well, congratulations to all of you. Well done. We are very lucky as a district to have such dedicated staff and volunteers, so thank you so much.
My name is Angela Burke, and I'm here just to introduce those couple volunteers who are also have gone above and beyond this year in doing what they can for the district. So for those of you that I haven't met yet, Angela Burke, and I am the new Community Relations Coordinator here at Linn-Mar. So I'm going to start off tonight. The Making a Difference Volunteer Award recognizes volunteers that have supported our classrooms with their time. Amber Harubi has supported the daily needs in various classrooms at Wilkins Elementary over the past few years, and this year extended those services to Boulder Peak as well. She has also served as a volunteer coordinator for many years and took a step back this year to even just help a new coordinator under her wing. Amber said it best herself. She said, volunteering is an important and easy way to make a world a better place, and that is exactly what Amber does. Please join me in congratulating Amber Ruby, this year's Making a Difference Volunteer Award winner. Our Above and Beyond Volunteer Award recognizes those through their leadership that have significantly impacted our schools. Kristen Beach is currently in her 3rd year of serving as volunteer coordinator for the high school. Kristen not only actively volunteers herself, but seeks to find the best volunteers for each opportunity she's presented with. She also is actively involved in Linn-Mar's Booster Club. Please join me in acknowledging Kristen's leadership in our district and her willingness to always go above and beyond.
Again, thank you. I spoke too soon. I only had Lisa's name written down. I'm sorry, Angela. Yes, we're incredibly lucky as a district to have such dedicated community members and staff, and we're incredibly appreciative of all that you do. Next up in our recognitions, I get to read a proclamation about Teacher Appreciation Week, which I think we all can say it's so much more than a week, but we're going to take a week and make a big deal out of it. So, whereas May 1st through May 5th has been declared as Teacher Appreciation Week by the President of the United States, and whereas teachers are patient, hardworking, dedicated, and educated professionals that mold the lives of all students in a positive direction through guidance and education to inspire learning, unlock potential, empower achievement, and whereas Teachers spend countless hours preparing lessons, evaluating progress, counseling students and families, and providing their time and talents to the community by educating its students. And whereas teachers work together as teams with other educational leaders, with students, and with Linn-Mar administrators to build a strong curriculum and support system for the students and families of the Linn-Mar Community School District to ensure educational success for all, therefore be it proclaimed that the Linn-Mar Community School District proclaims May 1st through the 5th, 2023 as Teacher Appreciation Week, and be it also proclaimed that the Linn-Mar Board of Directors encourages all members of the Linn-Mar community to express their appreciation for the dedication and service that Linn-Mar teachers offer daily to the educational and personal success of all our students. So when you see a teacher, give them a shout out because they're awesome and we are very lucky. Shannon?
We have one final recognition, and teachers are not the only ones we're recognizing tonight. We also want to state a proclamation in honor of School Board Recognition Month, beginning the month of May as well. So whereas the Iowa Association of School Boards has designated the month of May as School Board Recognition Month in recognition of the dedicated service of all Iowa school board members in developing Iowa's future together, and whereas the publicly elected members of the Linn-Mar Community School District Board of Directors play an important role in that decisions that directly influence the education of all Linn-Mar students. And whereas the decisions by the Linn-Mar Board of Directors have a direct impact on the lives of the students as they move forward in society and successful learners and individuals. And whereas school board members work with students, staff, parents, educational professionals, and lawmakers to create and reach the educational vision of the district to inspire learning, unlock potential, empower achievement. Therefore, be it proclaimed that the Linn-Mar Community School District recognizes the contributions of the school board to the academic success of all students and offers a sincere thank you to each of the board members for their dedication to the well-being and achievement of the students, and be it finally proclaimed that as the superintendent of the Linn-Mar Community School District, I declare May 2023 as School Board Appreciation Month and encourage all students, staff, and community members to recognize the devotion and service of the Linn-Mar Board of Directors. So if you join me kind of in a round of applause in recognizing our board members and our teachers. Thank you, board members, and thank you, teachers that are joining us in person and virtually. We greatly appreciate you.
Next up, we are going to open the public hearing. We are holding a public hearing regarding the proposed budget for fiscal year 2023-24. So if there's anyone here this evening to speak on the budget proposal, you may approach the podium now. Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing regarding the budget for fiscal year 2023-24. And now we move on to informational reports. And first up, we have the Elementary Student Assistant Specialists and School Counselors report.
Great. Thank you guys so much for having us tonight. We're here to present on our roles of school counselors and student specialists. So we're going to do introductions first. So my name is Laura James, and I am the school counselor at Indian Creek.
I'm Nick Mowinkle, school counselor at Wilkins.
Catherine Knudsen, Lingrove.
I'm Chris Southwood, and I'm the counselor at Novak.
Matt Hance, I'm the counselor at Bowman Woods.
Cassie Shanahan, counselor at Westfield.
And the only one we don't have tonight is Deb Bundy, who's at Echo Hill.
I'm Tammy DeVries. I'm a student assistant specialist for Wilkins, Westfield, and Bowman Woods.
My name is Jacob Young, and I am the student assistant specialist for the other four elementary schools.
So our purpose of being here tonight is obviously to explain what our role is of the elementary school counselor and what our days look like, which is atypical some days, but some days it's normal. And then also what is the role of the student assistance team and how are they utilized to help our students in their buildings. And then our current curriculum that is currently being used and has been used, and then the change for the upcoming school year.
Okay, so a little background.
for elementary school counselors, we do have master level educations. We have been trained in child development, self-management, and social skills. And here at for Linn-Mar schools, we teach guidance-based lessons that are directly related to academic success, career opportunities, and social emotional development. We do a lot of that through our second step program that we use this year. And then we work with students in small groups and on an individual basis outside of our classroom guidance times.
So again, kind of what does the typical day look like in elementary land? So within the district, we're part of the essential schedule or special schedule, depending on the verbiage used. And what our day looks like is that 60 minutes that we're in the classroom teaching those lessons. And that's kindergarten through 4th grade that we are working with those students as part of the large group. Like Nick had mentioned, we also have small group curriculum that we utilize, which is focusing on social skills training, some of those managing of strong feelings, and a lot of the friendships at this kind of level. And then if it is something that a student needs more of an individual basis, that's also where we work with students, kind of on similar concerns that might be in the small group setting, but just individualized for the student's needs. And that's a lot of times referral based by teachers or parents reaching out to us.
So as student assistant members, both Tammy and I are licensed social workers. So we work with students in the school settings. Some of that might be social emotional based learning. We do a lot of the tier 2 interventions in terms of SAGE groups. So for those kids that might have been identified through data that are having some barriers in the classroom, whether those are on the lines of executive functioning or emotional management, we have curriculums that are based to help reduce some of those barriers. Both Tammy and I act as ALICE trainers at the elementary school level. And then we also have some other specialized things that we're district trainers for. For instance, I'm one of the CPI instructors and youth mental health first aid, and Tammy is one of the OVEAS trainers for the district as well. Other ways that we help and work with families as well as like a big task or undertaking is the holiday assistance program in the early fall, late winter, for helping to provide families with support during those holiday seasons that can be tough.
So we wanted to share with you some of the statistics of how we have been able to serve our families here at Linn-Mar. During the 2022-23 school year, we were able to help 470 kids and 201 families with holidays. So we're really happy with that. And then we looked at last year's data to give you a full year of kind of how we as a student assistance team serve in the elementary level, and we were able to serve 219 students and families in the last school year. Some of those ways that we have served those families are in SAGE groups like Jacob talked about, friendship or individual or social emotional groups. Family outreach and support is a big piece of our role. Mercy referrals, referrals to Sean, our family resource specialist, safety planning, referrals out to Foundation 2, or any way we connect with families.
Back to the school counseling piece, I'm going to be sharing our current curriculum, which we use for guidance classes. I just wanted to also mention that a good deal, or we have been slowly increasing our guidance time over the past few years to the point where probably most of our have time in the classrooms, just to kind of give you an idea of how much time we are spending and focusing on this. So second step is a research-based curriculum. We do units on empathy, emotion management, problem solving, and the lessons do have a script that goes along with kind of a picture situation where kids are able to kind of brainstorm ideas and also practice the skill that goes along with the big idea for the lesson each day too. So here are the units kind of broken down a little bit. We usually start the year off with skills for learning. It's a good time just to get kids to think about listening, how to focus, follow directions, and then also be assertive and stand up for themselves. and let somebody know if they need something. Empathy is talking about how other people feel, recognizing how other people feel, and then also the compassion piece is doing something to help that person if they need some help. So we do a lot of talking about feelings, identification, and how we can care for others. Our next unit is emotion management, and I would probably guess that's where a lot of us spend quite a bit of our time during the school year. I know at Novak we spend a lot of time on the emotion management piece. We go through the steps for calming down and how to handle strong emotions, and then do a lot of practicing on skills. And then the last unit is our problem solving. And we talk about, there's a model, it's the STEP model for solving problems, and then also talking with kids on fair ways to play, how to be respectful when solving problems, how to manage your emotions when there's a problem, and then coming up with solutions everybody can live with too. So that's all part of what we have been doing. And now you'll get to hear about the new curriculum that we are starting.
So next year, we have adopted a new program called Character Strong, which some of our schools have piloted this year. It's a great program, research-based, social emotional learning, and character education-based program. There are 5 lesson components for each week, so we can combine it with teachers using some of those lessons day to day in the classroom, and it's joined then with what we are teaching when we are in there for our 60-minute block of time. There's explicit direct skill instructions designed to lead through the outcomes of be strong, be kind, and be well. So just a visual, under the be kind, there's a monthly theme of respect, empathy, and cooperation. Under the be strong is focusing on that executive functioning, the responsibility, perseverance, and courage. And then the third, be well, is wellness strategies. That's the emotional regulation piece. And gratitude, honesty, and creativity will be the main focuses under there. Like I said, it's a curriculum that's meant to be 5 days a week, so our teachers will be teaching 4 days, little sections during their classroom SEL time, and then we'll come in with that larger group lesson that's a little bit longer and a little more in detail, so that we're all combined and we're teaching the same thing throughout the year instead of everybody kind of hodgepodging their own thing together. So we're really excited to have that cohesiveness in our SEL learning.
I was also going to throw in there too, thank you to Lisa and Melissa for advocating for that curriculum too. It's something that we've been asking for, just to kind of find something that is a little bit more fresh and continue to kind of come up with some more common language that we can use. And the other thing that we're really looking forward to, maybe I'm speaking for myself, but is another thing that we're going to be getting, part of this curriculum is a tier 2 base curriculum that I think is definitely needed, and to be able to help not only in our role but also in the student assistance team to be able to help those students. And again, it's cohesive, it's the same in language, so I think that's going to be another wonderful thing that we can utilize at the elementary level. And again, it's K-12, so the things that the kids are hearing with us is also going to be infused in the upper grade levels, which again hasn't really been the case. So it will be great to see that transference. So thank you.
Can you?
All of you for what you're doing. We have this emphasis on mental health, and you're tackling it from many different aspects. But having everybody on the same page as it goes from building to building, I think is crucial. So everybody's on the same page. But there's a lot of nerve-wracking things that goes on within the families and within school, and where they are in the school, and friends, and how to deal with things on the playground and stuff. And you're covering so many key issues that, you know, even we as adults have trouble with sometimes. But it's getting there, and they're opening the eyes to them, and it's okay to have these feelings, and how you direct them to handle those situations, I think, is just tremendous. And I thank you.
I want to share that I am really grateful that we, across the entire district, are implementing a universal prevention program. As somebody with a really long history in prevention, that is so exciting to me. And not many districts do that. And so that is, I just want to note how huge that is, that we are making that happen, and that all of our elementary kids are getting that level of really solid evidence-based curriculum that is going to go so far. And I love that we are refreshing our curriculum. I think when I started in this field in 2001, I was teaching second step. So I think it's funny and awesome that we are switching from second step to something new right now. And clearly it's a different second step than what I was doing when I got out of college. But yeah, it just has some updated pictures at least. But I'm glad to see that we're continuing to grow and evolve and meet the needs, and I'm really proud to be part of this district, so great job.
I just wondered if you could talk just a little bit more about that Tier 2 curriculum, how that differs from what we're doing now, and what role that will play going forward, maybe?
Might have to
Lisa?
punt it to Lisa, but there's not much. So I guess, yeah, I was going to say, this is great.
I've been around the longest, so I think I've been through all of the changes and permutations and the evolution. With PBIS, when we started that about 10 to 12 years ago, somewhere in there, the Tier 1 is universal, of course, which meets everybody, or it's like the core. Tier 2 are those extra things that is kind of the next level up of what kids need. Through the Iowa model of PBIS, we have a check-in, check-out system, and then we have two different kinds of social, academic, instructional groups that we do. And one of them, Jacob had said before, is kind of the executive functioning or classroom survival skills, and then the second kind is the emotion management. And we just feel like we need a little bit more there, like just for it to be a little bit more robust to meet the needs of our kids. And so we're kind of excited, and I know they're just rolling out the Tier 2 part. You can maybe speak to what the next step is going to be.
So Character Strong actually is just releasing it this month.
Okay.
It hasn't even been rolled out yet, but we were on the ball of they've done webinars with us, with the United States, not just Linn-Mar. Sure, we'll just say it's Linn-Mar. No, but we've been able to sit on those and get some sneak peeks at what this looks like. But what we're excited for is it also has that data piece. So right now, as all good teachers are, we utilize a lot of cardiovascular decisions of they just need some more assistance, right, in the area of social emotional, but we don't have that data piece to show us what is that in, and what exactly would we target. We have some kind of good thoughts on where that would go, but this also has a data piece. So let's look at the data and determine where they're going to fit in. So they'll still be able to fit in another tier lesson of either be kind, be well, be strong. Yeah. Thanks. Be kind, be strong, be well. Yes,
Good
okay.
job.
So they'll fit into one of those categories as well, and have a lot more defined lessons on that, and make it into that small group and give it something more. I think the one thing too that they touched upon really well is, and they've done amazing with Second Step. Let's just say this, because they've been saying for a long time, Second Step gives about this much of a lesson, and then they're pulling in all of their knowledge, all of their hours of research on what can we add to make these lessons so interactive for the students. And then when we put Character Strong, they were like, this is what we've been looking for, of the interaction and the engagement of some of the students that have already started at some of the schools has been really increasing. So this comes from that same type of student engagement, highly engaged. And then maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but some of our SAGE lessons, we kind of pull from different places and had to write some of our own. So being able to utilize this through the core and what core has done and seeing that they're not meeting the core, and now we can actually specifically target the areas that they need, get that data to, and then see how successful they are.
Great. Thanks,
I have
Lisa.
one more question. You mentioned youth mental health first aid. I'm wondering, are we providing that training? Or are we accessing any of the free trainings that are available in the community for that? Or are we just doing all that internally at this point?
So far, we've been doing that internally. So myself and Jessica deal at the high school.
Okay.
We're 1 or 2 trainers. So we've offered, this year we offered 2, so we were able to hit the high school associates and the associates at the secondary level at the middle school. And then, like, before when I first started, so I've been here about 3 years, and I received that training from Jessica and another staff that has now left the district, and I took her place. So we've been able to meet those needs with the district, kind of with us, but we also always know that we have, like Grantwood has youth mental health first aid trainers that we can utilize if the capacity or the need is too great for us to handle.
Just one comment, and this slide really stuck out at me. And first of all, I want to thank each of you because, in my opinion, your role is, everybody has a role in this district, but your role is valuable, especially coming through the pandemic like we did. You know, we've lost children emotionally, we've lost them socially, and you guys are pulling that all back together. And I just wrote this down, these 9 bullets. No matter what age we are, this is an important part of our life. And if we don't respect each other, then we're. But anyway, thank you for all of that. We appreciate everything you do.
Thank you guys as well for your work, but also, as you guys know, we've been having a kind of a process from starting the high school, middle school, intermediate, and now down to elementary, working our way through the grade levels, and usually kind of go the reverse order, it seems like, for chronological reasons, I guess. But it's nice to finish with the foundation and what you guys do all the time in the regular classroom as well, too. So appreciate your work and your willingness to share all the exciting things that are happening, too. So.
I just have one question. First, I do want to say I've worked with school counselors for over a decade now through my job, and I have heard for over a decade how we need something more than Second Step. And I have heard Houston Craft talk multiple times, and I'm so excited. Like, I would have come back from the last conference advocating, but it was already done. So I'm really excited for you guys to get to use Character Strong. I just think it's a phenomenal program. But my question is about the increased time in the classroom and how you're balancing that with the needs of small group and individual counseling. Like, how is that working?
I mean, I think
You don't
it
have to
depends
say
building
much.
to building,
You can see
obviously. The needs in the building are not the same. My building needs at Indian Creek are not the same at Novak. So I think that's also difficult. It's not easy to compare it apples to apples because it's not. So I think the hardest part is that balance. And I would be saying I'd be lost without Jacob in Indian Creek because he definitely helps with those needs. While he's only in our buildings about once, and same with Tammy, about once a week, it definitely helps offset that need that the students have. So thank you guys for providing those people to us because it's definitely a need. But I would say that's kind of the hardest part. And each building, like I said, is a little bit different. I have some flexibility with my media specialists that we are able to do a little bit switching. And that's just what works well in our building, but I know that that's not the case for every building, like I said. So I don't know if anybody else wants to kind of come at a different perspective.
I also feel like our PBIS systems do kind of help to kind of funnel some of the needs that we have that maybe aren't the more emergent things that all of a sudden happen, where we can use our systems and use our data to see who might be falling through the cracks or who might need a little bit more. But I do think it can be a challenge when we're in class of messages and notes and try and get to everybody we need to get to. I think it can be a challenge, but
I'd also like to say, like, we had Val from Bowman Woods here earlier, and I'm for myself at Indian Creek. Our school facilitator, Courtney Scaneska, is amazing. She also has a social work background, and I think that helps in our building really well because she does have that mental health background. And so, yes, while she looks at it also from the disciplinary aspect, she also has that compassionate side that she's also able to work with students and look at it from that flip side. So if I'm not available, she does what she's able to do within the realm of her role, but then knows when this is too much for me, and I feel like I need you to then take on. So I, like you said, everybody has a role. And so it's just a matter of seeing how can we designate sometimes those roles in those matters of crisis. And I think everybody within our buildings hopefully understands that if it is a student in crisis, like, what's first? Sorry, the essentials is going to have to go to the wayside because the students' needs are more important at this point in time. So, and that's just kind of how that is going to have to be sometimes. So.
I was all the way back there. Thanks for asking. I'm the new guy this year. It's hard. We are thrilled to be in the classrooms. We love to be able to work with all the kids, that foundational piece like you talked about. It would be impossible, like you say, without the facilitators and student assistance team, but it is difficult to do some of those more, we talked about like the kids that withdrawn, socially having difficulty connecting with other people. It's difficult to meet all of those needs with the time constriction the way they are. It's okay, because we can do a lot of that whole group, a lot of that in the classrooms, but there are kids that just need more, and that gets difficult. So it's certainly a balancing act and something we have to juggle. So I'm glad you're aware that that provides some tension. I don't know what the easy solution is, but at least you know there's tension there sometimes with how that has to work.
Thank you for that honesty.
Yes.
I'm surprised if you said anything different, to be perfectly honest. We recognize that that is a legitimate challenge.
Some of my best friends are school counselors from across the state, so I have an in. So just.
You're very diplomatic about the way you stated that. We appreciate that. You know, and that's a major concern I've had, and I know I've talked to other board members about it. It's important that you're available when you're needed in that situation. And hopefully, I would imagine, having taught in Linn-Mar many years, that the people who would be, you might say, doing something else at that moment would say, okay, I'm back, and you can take over. But I also hope that we don't get to the point where you are in the classroom so often that you can't do a lot of the small groups and things that really, really help those kids that are kind of disappearing within the school, and you keep trying to bring them back in. And I don't know how else to say that. A balancing act is what it is, and I hope as counselors and teachers, other professionals within the building and the principals, you can all work together to continue to honor that, and that everybody gives you the due that you need to have, because you're important, very much so. So thank you for all you do.
I guess maybe I have a follow-up then. With the switch to Character Strong and the fact that teachers are going to be doing this 4 days a week and then you're going to do it the 5th day, I would possibly believe that there will be more knowledge, so that if you do need to be pulled away from your assigned classroom time, there's more knowledge in the building of what that lesson might have been, and it'll be easier for someone to step in so you can go do, maybe, wishful thinking, just putting it out there.
It should be.
In theory, that would make sense with it too. It's just timing is always unique in the situation as well.
Comes down to scheduling.
Well, something to continue working towards, but I think what you guys are doing is phenomenal. I'm at the tail end of my last year with elementary student, and I will use that moment to acknowledge that we're missing Thule, and she's awesome, and so shout out to the elementary team that gets to have our dog. So thank you guys for coming.
Stole our thunder, so.
Any other questions while we have this group?
Have you found any benefits to any community partners that have been able to offset some of that loss of individual or small group time? Or is that still something that is in the exploratory phase or not helpful?
I would say it's helpful. It just comes down to, I think, dollars and cents.
Are you meaning like agencies within our building?
Yeah.
We don't have any at the elementary level.
Okay.
We lost all of ours.
Yeah.
So any that might have like grant funding that would be able to come in and provide small group supports or things like that.
When you say you've lost, are we talking about like Covenant being able to come in and provide that? Did you guys find that to be helpful?
Especially during the pandemic.
Yeah.
And post-pandemic, I think they really got full, and then we ended up with a waiting list even, and I just know it's hard to, for them to staff this.
So families utilize those services and they were a buoy for you guys.
And I
Well,
think the hardest part too, just I know within the mental health crisis in general, is where are they getting pulled, and it's to their agencies, which I get, but also if we could do crisis control within the schools to help, like how does that also look? So it's kind of that double-edged sword when you look at it that way. And I mean, constantly we're getting parents asking for referrals. Do you know a great, and the wait list is unfortunately sky high. And so that's just the hardest part is just knowing the need is there.
And the convenience of having them in the building, parents didn't have to drive them, parents didn't have to leave work, just kids that normally wouldn't go were going.
I even think
that's
of
the part that we are
Yep.
lacking is those kids that don't have the means to get there are
Yep.
not getting there.
or parents who
think
are
that
not
they're-
able to leave work in order to get them there. I think those were incredible services, and I can speak for myself in saying that I hope that we are able at some time, as soon as we can, to get those services back into the buildings. I really believe in that program, and I think that there are other members at this table who agree that these are very vital services that we would like to provide to our students just as soon as we can.
I think
So
it'd be
that's
worth
where-
exploring those tier 2 services too, and see are there community providers that might be available to come in and do small group supports and divorce care supports, small groups, or whatever that might look like that maybe you might have been doing in the past, but another nonprofit might be able to come in and do for free because they've got funding to be doing those in the community, to be able to offset some of your time so that you're not spread so thin.
We have utilized that in the past, like through ASAC and different places, but haven't really heard much lately. I will also say Foundation 2 is a good kind of tier 3 more approach, or they definitely come into the elementary schools too. So just to point out that they've been very helpful in a couple of our cases at Nova for sure, so.
I think you were going to say something.
Yeah, I was going to just point out that that's where we really need to advocate hard for that dropout prevention dollars. If we can get, if we think that we are right now locked in at 2.5%, if we can get it eventually up to 5%, that would double our budget to be able to support their work and the work that we're missing at that level.
Lisa, do you envision that at some point we will be able to bring back those in-house services for therapy for kids?
We absolutely hope to.
Okay.
When we reach out to agencies right now, it's the same thing with Mercy. They don't have the staff.
Okay, so it's a staffing issue, it's not
It's a
a
staffing
dollars
issue. They don't have the staff to be sending people out, and those that they're sending out, like Mercy, they're bringing back in because low staffing and high mental health crisis is what we're going through right now. And so it's the staffing. We even looked at what can we bill through our billable hours, but we only have about 2 staff members that are equipped to be able to look into that and do that. But
Is that now, obviously, we're going to be kind of butting up against the same issues that places like Mercy or Covenant, et cetera, are butting up into in terms of how do we find these folks. But is that something, there are some benefits to working for a school district as opposed to working for a Mercy or working for a Covenant. So, is that something, I'm
I
sorry?
think that's where the dropout prevention dollars, if we
Right,
get up to
so
5%,
is that
we can
something
hire
that we
out.
can look
Yes.
into as far as bringing counselors onto our payroll in order to provide those services in-house?
if I could
Staffing issue for
dream,
them, but it's, if we want to do our own, then it
Yes.
becomes a funding issue.
It's a
and that's
funding
goes back
issue
to
for us,
Lisa's-
And that's
right.
where those
with
dollars
that-
would come
So
from.
with those dollars and cents, I remember at one point when we lost the contract with Covenant, my understanding was that was a cost issue. So I'm just trying to kind of like meet out here. are we looking at, you know what I mean? Is it a funding issue? Is it a staffing issue? And where
So
can
it-
we,
yep.
you know what I mean?
Yep,
Where can
and
we
it kind
look
of
to
goes
solve
to
those problems?
both of those that you're talking about, Rachel. So it is staffing and funding. So they've changed their models, which is a great model to change it to. And their models that you'll see around, and Covenant was one that changed to it, and that's why we had to drop at the time, because we didn't have the funding available. But a lot of the service providers are changing their model of, if we're coming into the school, we need to be a part of that team. So we need non-billable hours with your staff, to doing professional development, talking with families, being on the PBIS teams that you hear here. So it would be, so it's those non-billable hours that they're requesting in their new model, which makes perfect sense. It's just somebody keeps telling me over there at the CFO table that I'm overspending as it is in that area. So we need to look at
Award-winning CFO.
CFO says, stop, Lisa.
So this
it's looking
funding,
at-
this additional funding would be a boon to us.
Absolutely.
Just to look
Absolutely.
at solving some of these problems.
And then the providers would still have to have the staffing to be able to support that, even if we had the money
Correct.
to do
We
it.
could hire our own.
We
Well,
need
or
to
we can hire more
hire
school
counselors.
counselors.
Yes.
Again, there are a lot of,
If we
there are
can
a lot
find
of
them
reasons
people.
why somebody would want to come and work in
Find
a
them.
school district.
Hunt
And
them
so I
down.
think we could definitely attract the staff. I don't really worry about that so much. I just know the money has to be there, so.
Thank you guys so much for joining us.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Yep.
Good work.
Next up, Rachel, you want to give us an update on the recent DEI committee meeting?
I had a scheduling conflict, so I was not able to be there, so I will kick it to Nathan.
Yeah, not much of an update. We just continued what I think we got an update with last time. So we should be able to come with, we're still going through the focus group feedback. So we had the other focus groups present that we did not get to at our last meeting. So we hope to be able to share a board update late May or into June of kind of the work that committee's doing. So I know the committee members are planning to come forward with that at some point.
Thank you. Finance audit did meet last Thursday. Barry or Clark?
I'm going to defer to David because he'll be up. I think that was the majority of our discussion. So.
We're going to hold the budget. He's got a whole different section for the budget. So anything else that we talked about that on Thursday that you guys want to talk about or hit on?
They're just, it was nice to hear that some of the bids that came in facilities-wise were under budget, and so we can use that money in other places. And I thought that was really good, because that's significant. And just wanted to reiterate with the administration building and going to that new heating and cooling system, that the district's going to save over $260,000 as it progresses through the years, and that's extremely significant, I feel.
And that's not part of the building, that's long-term savings.
Right.
On our
Correct.
utility bills, correct. Yep, thank you.
We also talked about, we did have some storm damage from the fun weather on March 31st. No shock that the fence around the tennis courts wobbled a bit and had to be fixed. And then we had some stadium fencing that needed repaired, but it was minor. And then we talked about Pepple will need renewed in the next couple of years, so we're starting some planning on that. And budget, which we'll talk about.
Reached out to the district, and we're going to have a conversation with them if we can find a suitable placement that would work for both of us, and the rate that they're willing to pay. So we'll start the negotiation process with them. If we can come to agreement, we'll bring that back to the board and see if we can earn some money from a placement of cell phone tower, which will actually help all of us anyway with additional cell phone coverage as well. So.
Nice tapper to the new admin building.
decide not to put it on top of any building.
We don't want to mess with any roofs.
We don't want any more roof things going on.
That was unanimous not to put it on any.
So, all right, any questions for any member of the Finance Committee? We were able to visit Indian Creek on April 20th. Any thoughts people want to share?
Got to see one of my favorite PE teachers show us how to do battleship on scooters. Miss Hutchison.
We might be sitting back in the corner.
It was fun. It was wonderful. That was cool.
Trying to get you to be out there.
Super fun as well.
Yeah, I just really got to have an opportunity to see the PLC, how that was working in there, and that was amazing. I started off, I don't know how this is going. It didn't look like it was going. And then as they started to explain how they broke down, how you can change words, and the sequence in which they did that was amazing to me, anyhow. And when one of the teachers said, yeah, I've been using this with my own child, and he's 4 years old, and he's able to read some different things. And geez, that's amazing. And how sold are all of them on this new process? They broke down in groups. They all had an opportunity to talk about what they saw and what part they had in that. And it was really nice to see that all of them came together on that. And with a little frivolity, I had an interesting situation happen when we were in the cafeteria. The fourth graders were eating, and so all of us got to go around the table. And my last table, this young student, she got to talking, and she says, you know, how old are you? And I told her, and her eyes got a little big, and she said, you're older than my grandma. So I was able to leave with a smile on my face.
Whose student was that, Clark?
Huh?
Whose student was that, Clark?
That was your daughter, I found out.
Well, I will jump in and say that was the longest we've been able to stay in a PLC or a training. We've gotten to see snippets of them, but we actually spent about 20 minutes in that training. And I will fully admit that before I had a child of my own, I never really thought about how you teach someone something. And I've always just been able to write and be able to read, and it's in my head, and you just do it, and then trying to explain it. So to see how curriculum is broken down and the art of learning how to explain something, like I'm always in awe of what teachers are able to accomplish, but to be able to actually sit in and watch them process and break down what's the best way to teach this concept, and it just, I was impressed. I'm continually impressed by these training sessions that we get to sit in on and listen to how it comes together, and I know I'm wholly unqualified after I sit and listen to them go through. So that is the highlight for me. I mean, I did enjoy seeing the kids in the lunchroom, and I was talking to the fourth graders about their transition to Boulder Peak, and they're all very excited, and so that was fun. But the curriculum for me that day was pretty special.
I'll jump in and kind of what you were saying with being in that PLC was very interesting to me. It's completely foreign to me. So like you're saying, you don't really think about how do you learn to teach somebody. So that was really neat to see. And then going into a classroom and seeing the teacher actually using some of that with the students on, well, what's the rule type of thing, and kind of putting it together and seeing how that all works together was really neat. I will agree with Barry that being in Amy's PE class was a ton of fun, and I was close to jumping into that game, just so you know. And with Indian Creek, it's not necessarily one of the newer buildings, but the facilities there looked fantastic. All of our facilities do. So hats off to everyone there through every level of that building. So it was a good day to be there. And with the chaos they had, how they pulled it all together, and everybody was still able to pull all those youngsters back together and get some learning done.
So I was going to recognize as the Indian Creek staff, because as you guys may or may not know, that day there was a lot of activity going on in addition to the board visit, from not one emergency vehicle visit to the school, but two fire trucks there for a faulty smoke detector, and then a second time for a precautionary measure for a health issue as well. But I don't think if you knew that, you wouldn't have even noticed anything was happening different, because everybody just worked together and made it seem like a normal school day as far as students are going. But it had been an active morning in that building in addition to the usual activity level too. So kudos for everybody for doing what they do.
Well, they find the fun in it. I remember Kelly saying that she beat out Novak because they had 2 emergency visits in one day, and Novak had 1 because the day before the city was clearing the fire hydrants, and it caused the sprinkler
water pressure
system
to drop, so our sprinkler system.
So it's just, and the students wouldn't know, like, because everything just, the next person steps in, and it's a well-oiled machine, and it's awesome.
Did drive by today and saw the city still doing some fire hydrant work, and I thought, oh, please don't set off another fire alarm. I'm not aware of any, so hopefully that's been resolved.
I was reminded when we were in the lunchroom, was stopping and talking with a table, and all of a sudden we were having this whole big conversation about the transition from 4th grade to 5th grade, and they found out that my husband works at Boulder Peak, and they're like, okay, we've got questions. And it was like, do we all get our own lockers? And what about this? And what about that? And they just were going on and on and on with all this information, all these questions, and what about lunch? And what about this? And what about that? And I'm like texting, like trying to get information for them. And just, I realized once again, like how much angst there is at this time of year for 4th graders, and what the teachers must be dealing with to try to calm and provide a sense of affirmation to them that it's a big change, but it's lots of little things. They're like, are there a lot of steps, and is there an elevator? And so being able to calm their minds around the fact that you're really just in this one little area just most of the day, and yep, you do walk down the steps for lunch, but if you break your leg, yep, you can use the elevator. And so I think that was really a good reminder for me that the teachers and the staff as a whole in that building are providing a lot of comfort and care for those 4th graders as they're preparing for the transition, in the same way that our teachers are in all of our big transitions. All of our staff are just doing such a great job wrapping all of our kids in love and care as they prepare for all those steps along the way in their journey.
That's exactly why the month of May is so much about transitions, whether it's visiting the school, which they'll get to do here shortly, to asking questions of staff members as well, to alleviate as many of those concerns, as little as they may be. It could still cause a child anxiety or worry about it. So that's a big part of the month of May, preparing them for that next step.
Don't worry, they were going to spread the word that there's lockers for all of them.
All I want to add is that I think it was a perfect example of what happens at an elementary school, and all of you haven't lived there before. It lets you know that people fall in to do whatever they need to and work together, and I'll take these kids and you do this, and I mean, it's just something you do. And Indian Creek did a wonderful job, and Kelly flitted in and out as she could, and she did the best job that, ever. And we just need to, as you said, we appreciate all the teachers and all the other staff that are involved. I mean, the people in the lunchroom and those that help those kids get where they need to go. And we had one little buddy who was kind of heading down the middle of the hallway and kind of sat and just kind of watched us for a while, kind of like, I don't know who you are, but okay. And then got up and moved on. And it's just, I don't know, an elementary building is a unique place, and they did a great job.
I just find it funny that when we go into classrooms, the older kids, and of course they've been prepped, they all know that we're coming, but they're the quieter ones, but the minute you walk into kindergarten, it stops and they're like, who are you? Why are you, like, the littlest ones are never afraid to be like, why are you in my classroom? What are you doing? What's going on? So I always think that's fun.
That's great.
Anything else anyone wants to share? Okay. Marion City Council, who attended on the 20th?
Is that me?
Possibly.
If it was, I apologize. I mustn't have put it on my calendar. I will watch it and give a report next meeting.
Nope, your name didn't end up on the agenda, so
We didn't have a name on this one, so I don't know if we overlooked this one.
But if
We're
you would
hoping
like
somebody-
to watch the video.
Thanks for volunteering. You volunteered. You have nothing else to do.
All right, so we'll move that to the next board meeting with the rest of the.
We'll double up next
Yeah,
time.
so,
I was going to say, I would think I'd just move it forward, Matt, and we won't worry.
To the next one.
moving on, legislative report. This is the scheduled final week of session. They're supposed to be done by Friday. Per diem ends on Friday. There's still a lot of bills out there, so we'll see if that's done or not. We were talking about the at-risk. The bill is still alive. It's in committee, so I don't know. Hopefully, it moves somewhere. Shannon, I know you have actually specific things you want to talk about.
Yeah, well, the at-risk one, it's still alive, like you said, we just haven't seen much action on it. I don't know if it's going to go anywhere. It reminds me a lot of last year where it's still alive at this stage and then it just sat there. So hopefully it'll take some action, but we don't know yet. So just a couple things that we saw happen late last week. Senate File 269 is one, a property tax bill. That's the one that would eliminate the Pearl levy that we currently have. That would be a big loss for us. Things like tennis courts and playgrounds, those funds all go directly to that. So we're hoping that bill does not move forward because that would be a challenge for us as a district as well. House File 718 really reduces the uniform levy rate from $5.40 to $4.40. But the other piece that's really, I thought was kind of interesting is it does say bond issues can only be done in November elections. Which I don't know, that's really the highlight of the bill, but that would be probably the most impact for us. I thought that was one that just doesn't give schools much flexibility as far as when to have bond issues as well, so that's one to keep an eye on. And then two that we did pass both the House and Senate are heading to the governor's office, Senate File 391. It's part of Chapter 12, which kind of defines what we have to do in schools and what we can and cannot do. There's a lot of pieces to it as far as course and credit requirements that are altered slightly, nothing too significant for us. A lot of them say we don't have to do things anymore, but we, in most cases, still will. But the one big change in there is it does say up to 5 days or 30 hours of virtual learning can be provided throughout a school year as well. We had that for 1 year during the pandemic. It has not been legal other years, so that would be a significant change for us. And then the final one, Senate File 496, the governor's transparency and parents' rights to is now going to the governor for approval as well. There's a lot in that bill that would impact schools as well. I won't even go through all of them, just a lot of different pieces of procedural steps for us to make sure certain things we publish on our website, board processes to make sure we adopt certain policies. Schools cannot teach on K-6 instruction on gender ID or sexual orientation, notifying parents. So a lot of different pieces to that bill. I think that one will take a little while for the Department of Education to get some rules and guidelines out for us. And obviously, when that happens, we'll stay up to date with that piece too. So those two have gone through the process. They're both at the governor's desk right now. We'll see if they get signed as is or if there are other changes too. But just keep an eye on those pieces as well. We've had some questions about both of those two. Until we get a chance to really see the final signed law, what it really means, to get some guidance from the Department of Education on what those rules look like. There's just a lot of unknown and speculation yet too, but we have some general thoughts on where that would look for us or impact, but it'll take a little while till those things get finalized. And there's a couple different timelines. Certain things are in effect July 1st of this year, other things aren't until the next year, and some not even until 2025. So there's a lot of layers to those two bills. We'll have to keep a close eye on and make sure we're in compliance. So more to come, but I'm with Britt. This Friday is kind of the typical end of the session. I doubt they're going to make it by this Friday, but sometimes they wrap things up really quickly when they are motivated as well. So we'll see with that, if that happens or not.
Keep it going.
Back to me. For my update, find my right spot on my own agenda. Sorry about that. Construction update for you quickly. The only thing I have of real relevance besides things that are already on our agenda, they have broken ground on our tennis courts now. It's good to see them out working. We're not under a real tight timeline because tennis doesn't, competitive tennis isn't in the fall for us, it's in the spring. But our tennis courts out here are in such dire need of replacement. It was great to see that project really, literally break ground and get moving ahead because it's an absolute need for us. So that's an exciting prospect. Still plan to have that ready to go by fall. Hopefully the summer weather will be allowing that to happen. So that was fun to see them out there today and get that project up and moving. As you guys know, I met with Amy Kortmeyer last week in her transition. We'll continue to stay in touch and have communication and help her as much as we possibly can. It has not been hard to fill her days. We're trying to get, she realized interest in being out in buildings, so we're doing that. And we've found that since Amy's been here in the past, she knows a lot of people and they know her, so those visits are taking a lot longer than we originally budgeted, which is a fabulous thing to have. So we'll continue working through that. Her next time when she's in the district for a full day is May 2nd. We already have her day scheduled between finishing up elementary school visits, meeting with cabinet members one-on-one, and then also some other communication updates for her as well. So it's been fun working with Amy again, and we'll have her up to speed as much as we possibly can this next 6 weeks of the school year and into summertime. So strategic plan update for you. Took the feedback from the last board meeting to heart. We've been working with Leslie on making some changes. As one of you predicted last board meeting, we may not be ready for this board meeting. And at that time I thought, yeah, we'll be ready, and we're not. So I want to make sure to take our time, do that right, make sure we have the adjustments in place. So plan to bring you an updated version at next board meeting for further conversation, and look forward to that. We've had good conversations with Leslie. Cabinet members met with her each individually, as have I. We're going to pull things together these next couple of weeks and be ready to go for you next board meeting. And then last thing I'll just mention, many recognitions in our cabinet update, as you can see online. But I want to call out Mr. Kevin Fry, hiding back in our back area, I think, as usual. He was acknowledged at the Iowa School Public Relations Association for his video award of excellence for his State of the District video work and kick off the strategic planning process from this fall. So he likes to promote everybody else, so we always have to make sure we promote him when he gets recognized too. So other than that, I'll take any questions you may have for me.
In talking with Shannon, the plan for the strategic plan is to have a work session for the board at the next meeting where we will dig into the goals that they're presenting, and we'll be able to go over it as a board during that session and then aim to hopefully approve it at the end of May. So, thanks. No one has any questions for Shannon. We'll move on to unfinished business.
I move to award the bid for the construction of the new administrative building to Peak Construction of North Liberty, Iowa for a base bid of $11,774,000.
I have a motion by Rachel and a second by Barry. Any discussion?
I can provide a quick overview, and Dave can jump in as well. He's the award-winning CFO, can provide that expertise. Never going to let
You're
live us
never
down,
going to live
Dave.
that down.
I joke with him only because it's very deserving. But the bids, as I shared with you in the communication with the memo you have in front of you, had 5 bidders, quite a tight range of bids coming in. They're a little higher than we were hoping for. As we looked at our budget planning process, we anticipated about a $400,000 lower amount than what actually came in when we factored in inflation and the soil costs that we were estimating what they would look like as well. So it's a little bit higher than we thought. We've been in communication with OPN pretty regularly since the bids about 2 weeks ago. We look to address that difference through some value engineering, which essentially just means we can't alter the bid itself, but there are certain things we can swap out, whether it be a landscaping item or a different brick or something that way. So we look to make some adjustments in there to help lower that cost to get to where we wanted it to be. And then the other significant savings as well, Clark and Barry kind of alluded to this earlier, we are looking to receive some tax credits for the switching of the HVAC to geothermal as well. That'll be a tax credit for us that we'll see a benefit for, but then also the long-term cost savings as well too. So not ideal, but overall we're pretty close to where we wanted to be, and we can feel like we can adjust some things in the plan to make that match up perfectly. And then the other positive side of this is in our entire construction law, our facility planning process. This is the third project of several, can't remember how many overall, but the first two did come under bid as well, so that does give us a little more flexibility. Tennis courts had just under $300,000 of savings from what the bid was versus what we estimated. And the high school stadium parking lot was about $278,000 as well. So you combine those two, it's about $576,000. So overall, with our projects, we're still on pace, actually a little bit under budget for where we initially thought we would be, which is fantastic because the last thing we want to have happen is the projects that are farther down the line get squeezed out and not have the resources left available for them. So we've been really clear with OPN that that cannot happen. And with the two steps that we've had so far, that got us off to a good start, and we'll still be better than our budget planning after this one as well. So there's probably more than you wanted, but there's what we've been working on the last couple weeks on that project.
Any further discussion? So again, motion by Rachel, second by Barry. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carries. Before we make a motion on the policy recommendations, I just want to reiterate the email I sent out on Friday. Policy 504 has been pulled. We did reach out to ISB and referenced all of the changes coming through, some of the bills that are moving through the legislative session, and we were informed that the section of code that references Senate File 2080 is going to be redone, and they just said, just wait, because in June, you're going to get all new recommendations. So that is why Policy 504 is not part of the second reading today. So now I will take a motion.
Motion to approve the second reading of the policy recommendations as presented.
Second.
The motion by Melissa and a second by Clark. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Moving on to new business. We're going to turn it over to award-winning CFO Dave. We'll only do it tonight. We'll stop after that. So he's going to present his budget presentation, and then we'll move on to discussion.
Thank you, President Morey.
Yeah. I think that's
Or
a
Madam
touche.
President, as I called her earlier.
All right, I'm happy to be here tonight to share the budget, proposed certified budget for FY 22-23. No, 23-24. What am I saying? 23.
Withdrawing that award, sorry.
Oh, my goodness. All right. So what does the certified budget do? It does two things. It basically sets the maximum tax rate, and it establishes an estimate of the budget year expenditures for all funds. Now, when you say maximum tax rate, what happens is when we certify our budget, we send it into the Department of Management. At that point in time, there's some things that can still change slightly. And if this changes, if it's something that the formula causes that changes, you can actually increase it by that because it was out of control. But we do have the right to actually lower if that actually happens. That doesn't happen very often. Sometimes it's very slight. It could be like a penny, so it's very slight. But that doesn't typically happen. That's why it's a maximum. And if we don't want to change it, we can actually lower it back down to what we had published and what we actually adopted. So I just want to make that point. What we're looking for we're looking at a proposed levy of $17.89. You can see the comparison here to the current year. General fund is looking at a 99-cent increase, and we'll talk a little bit about what's the driver of that a little bit. Management funds proposing to go down 37 cents. Debt service is dropping to 11 cents due to the bond payment schedule. So overall, it's a 3.8%, and the change is approximately 53-cent change. And that's based on the SSA growth of 3%. When we're looking at percentages, that's a big driver also, whatever the SSA growth is, based on how the funding formula works. It's a component of state aid and property taxes. So a higher SSA growth means it can be an increase in your overall levy as well. So we're looking at cost per pupil. So over the years, our cost per pupil goes up. You can see the percentages cost per pupil. This year went up from $7,413 for this year to $7,635. That's a 3% growth. If you look at the 5-year average, that's about 2.45% over 5 years. Certified enrollment trends. So what's really interesting, if you look at the numbers there, that's from the data chart. FY24 is 7,686 compared, and you look at FY21, 7,687. Doesn't that bar look kind of funky to you? I just now, as I was previewing, I'm like, wait a second here, that should be higher than that. So it seems like the chart just kind of is actually, it is higher, it should be higher than 7,676, but it is. It's 106 growth from last year to this year, certified enrollment numbers. Now, open enrollment. So I wanted to kind of show you where open enrollment is. So when you're looking at open enrollment trends, let's get this, here we go. When you look at open enrollment, you have your ins and your outs. So you got students coming in, you got students going to other districts. So I wanted to go back historically to show you kind of where things were at one point in time and how things came together, where open enrollment's ins and out have kind of converged to close to the same, okay? So back in 2009, you can see that we had 589 students open enrolled out and 253. I mean, so when how that works is you're billing schools for 253 kids that are coming in, and the other schools are billing us for coming out. They're going out. So you can see that we actually had a loss if you looked at everything in 2009. Okay, so, and over the years, that has come together. So that's what you're really hoping for, that you're not paying out more than what you're bringing in. That's what you're looking at. I mean, so you can see that several years we were pretty close. And then this past year, you can see that it jumped. This year right now, it jumped to 838 to 595. So the impact of that financially is about $1.57 million, that deviation between ins and outs for this year. So I just wanted to point that out. In the breakdown of general fund revenues for FY24, it's 57% of it is state revenue, 34.4% is property tax, 3% is federal, and 7.6% is other types of things, miscellaneous income and those types of things that comprise our general fund revenue. Expenditures, how's it broken down? Bulk of it, instruction. Okay, so 66.1% instruction, 11.4 is the next big piece of pie. It's 11.4%, and you can kind of see the breakdown as we have here. AA support is, a fairly big number of 4%. That's money that comes through the school district and flows out to the AAs for their support. Overall, of the budget for this next year, approximately 80% of that is salaries and benefits. So, general fund levy. You can see that's a 99 cent increase here, okay? So, general fund, it's the formula, it's the driver, a lot of the driver behind that. State foundation formula increased from 87.5 to 88.4%. That's really a mechanism to actually drive down property taxes a little bit, but that's in play still. Foundation-based supplement is 5 times the district weighted enrollment. That's still in play. It's additional dollars that they're trying to equalize the formula. Property tax levy to assist property tax poor districts. That's comes from the excess save revenue that they don't give through the schools for school infrastructure. They take a part of that and help. They call it the Peter Fund, which they use to help lower property taxes for poor districts. Property tax replacement also helps. So those are the same things. So a cash reserve. Now this is where a lot of the changes that are happening with our budget is happening in the cash reserve section. You can see our special ed deficit increased by $1.1 million compared to last year. And so that's a pretty big chunk. Our EOL and LEP growth deficit, it's 113,000, not a huge amount there, but our open enrollment and increased enrollment increased about $406,000. So open enrolled out is when you actually have an increase of open enrolled out, because we are funded on the prior year's enrollment, it's a delay, we're always a year behind, so we never had those students. If you have an increased open enrollment out, you never got money for them. So when you're paying other school districts, but you didn't get the money for them the previous year. So what that does is allows us to get the authority and also to go out and get the money to be able to help pay for that, okay? Same thing with increased enrollment. If we had an increased enrollment, you actually can get additional allowable growth as well, because you're always a year in arrears in your payment, in your payment from the state. So that is a little background on how that works. And then additional cash reserve levy, we're increasing that about $1.7 million to help with the transition, the cash flow, to maintain our solvency ratio at the 7%.
Ask you a question. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question, Dave?
Yeah.
On that special ed deficit, what is our total deficit?
It is
4 million?
Yeah, 4 point some million dollars.
Okay, so my question on that, just to kind of point out, because that's 1.1 million, that's a big chunk coming out of our number. And of course, special ed is a very critical part of our district. And this number actually is driven by the federal government, not the state level. And that's what makes it tough, because they haven't, what'd you say, it's been over 20 years since they even looked at it?
Yeah, that's.
Waiting
I think there's
levels
some,
have not
is it
increased either.
partly, is it all federal or it's some state, mostly federal? What is our special ed budget in total? Do you know? Ballpark?
I don't have that top of my head.
Okay.
I really don't. I don't want to guess.
So I'm just thinking back to my years on the board and looking at that 1.1 million. Let's say next year it's another million and the following year it's another million. What are we going to do as that special ed deficit balloons? Because 1.1 million is responsible for 25% of the total deficit for this year. That's huge, just 1 year increase. That just seems to be completely unsustainable going forward. So what are we going to do? What can we do? I know that we don't have a lot of control. What can we do to address that?
Well, one thing that the difficulty in high paras probably is going to help the situation, because that's one of the big drivers is the IEP requirements of having one-on-one support. That's a big driver in overall cost. Transportation is another big driver in the overall cost of special ed, because that's very expensive for maintaining individualized transportation for these kiddos. And it's, I don't know what the right answer is, because we still have to meet everybody's IEP goals. I mean, that's going to be very difficult. We still have to do that. And so it's really tough to say, what can we do to lower costs when the IEPs are driving the decisions and what we have to do to meet those IEP goals. And that costs money. There are things that, we're high cost claims, we'll always file for those and get high cost reimbursement for those. We do that because you have an expensive kid, the state will actually chip in some more dollars for high cost claims. And so we're doing all of that, but yes, it is challenging.
I just think it's important for people to understand that this deficit is the single biggest driver of our deficit overall, and that it represents if we eliminated the special ed deficit, we wouldn't have to make any cuts this year. And I just think that's incredibly important for everybody to understand.
Make sure we clarify that.
Which is not right.
We want to eliminate the deficit.
The deficit, the deficit.
And
We
when
need
we're going
funding.
to-
We need funding for that.
And when we're going to the community and saying, we have to raise property taxes to pay for X, Y, Z, it's because the federal government is not giving us what we need to cover our special education deficit, because that's primarily where our deficit is. So
Almost exclusive.
it's almost exclusively.
It is.
So we are covering almost all of our other expenses. So ultimately, what we're asking our community to do is to pay the difference in what the federal government owes our district and is not paying us.
I think
And
that's
to
a really key
understand that
point.
the district has been good fiscal stewards of the community's money, but you cannot bleed a turnip, so to speak. And absolutely, we must provide these services to all of these students, and that is top priority, but it's also just important for everybody to understand that we're being hamstrung by something that, you know, as you point out, we don't have much, if any, control over.
And I don't think there's a person in this community that wouldn't say that the children in our district that have IEPs don't deserve the services on those IEPs, and that we should not be providing those services. 100%, those kids need those services in order to get an equitable education, and we are going to do what we need to do to make sure that their needs are being met. 100%.
There's a huge difference between 12% and 40% that they could help us, and they haven't done that.
Right. And so we have to, as a community, make up that difference, because those kids deserve the services that they need in order to get a fair and equitable education.
I've had some conversations, you know, I think with the National School Board Association and switching and that sort of thing. Have we heard any other news on some national advocacy for this, or? But am I correct in saying that that's where some of our national advocacy should be coming from, is from that association?
It should be.
I don't know where else we'd go other than obviously our congressmen and, you know, those people.
Our state
but, I think that's
representatives.
something that we can possibly do is, you know, write some letters to those, whoever that is, with that organization to start the push.
I think that's exactly where we need to be. And when Grant Wood helped, when they paid for me to, as part of their group, to go out and advocate on a federal level to DC this fall, that was the number one thing that the districts are out there and the AEA was out there advocating for, was for the federal government to do what they have promised to do and they've never done, to adequately fund special education. And there were a lot of heads nodding at that time at the table, and but there hasn't been any action or traction on that I've seen at all. So I think Cosmo would be a good place to continue to advocate, and I think
So we
locally
can talk
would be a good
about
spot
this all
too.
day, but somebody at that level has to want to champion it, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think the other key piece that I want to make sure everybody walks away with is, you know, the deficit is there because we're underfunded, that's clear. But the other piece of it is, you asked about what can we do to reduce that. Advocacy, is in my mind, is the right route to go, and continue to push that piece. Other than that, for us, we don't have control over so much of that. So then it becomes a matter of, do we reduce our quality of service we're providing those kids and families? I think that's an absolute no, and that's why we're in the position we're in, because we want to make sure we have the highest quality educators, the supports that are there, the resources those families need as well. So that just leads to that disconnect of the funds are coming in versus the quality of service we want to provide. And here we are, and it's just an ongoing challenge. And we are by no means the only school in the area or state or country having this problem. But I think that's an important one for us to continue to prioritize. And as I think strategic plan, one of our goals is advocacy, and maybe we make that more of a clear advocacy highlight, in that is that federal piece, and what can we do in that area besides just talk about it at this table. So,
Well, the other piece that makes it hard and actually adds to the deficit is, you know, we got to pay our employees, paras, a wage, and we're competing with working at Walmart. I mean, what the hourly wages are nowadays, and so to to get our wages to a level that we can attract and hire paras. I mean, that's very challenging, and a lot of schools across the state are just saying, okay, we got to get our pay at least up to 15. They're making those jumps to that, and increasing insurance benefits to help attract more employees and paras and that type of thing, because they're very hard positions to fill. And so when you look at attractiveness, you put those things in place. What does that do? Then it impacts the deficit as well. So It's a difficult thing, and like I said, what Shannon said is advocacy, because yes, we do need more funds to be able to help support special ed. I mean, that's very clear. And I also want everybody to understand as well is when you have a cash reserve levy, all of these are components of cash reserve levy, and there is a cap. Iowa code does have a cap. It's 20% of the expenditures, okay, the prior year's expenses less fund balance. It's assigned and unassigned fund balance. So there is a cap that by code that you cannot exceed that in your cash reserve levy. So I just want to make it clear that that is there, and to try to help minimize that. So
does that mean, I just want to be clear that I understand, does that mean that at some point, if that deficit does increase, there's a point at which we can't close that gap by raising
correct.
the levy?
Yeah, it depends on how strong you are financially,
Yep.
okay? And if you're sitting, your unassigned fund balance are high enough that there are schools that cannot levy for the full special ed deficit. I mean, and I've been in that situation where I couldn't levy all of it because we were up about that. We said you can only levy 3/4 of it because we didn't have enough capacity there to do that. So yeah, that is true. That can
And then
happen.
you're just forced to take it
So,
from somewhere else?
yeah, so.
Okay.
That's fine. Appreciate the questions. So let's look at management funds here. Management fund, we are recommending a 37-cent decrease, okay? How are we doing that? Insurance is going up. First line, number one, insurance is going up overall about 17%, okay? That's on average is what I'm estimating. Because we don't have our renewals yet, but I just had some preliminaries just late last week, and to my surprise, my estimate of 17% was pretty much on target with what they were guessing as well on average. So I'm like, oh, that's good. So also the funded future early separation incentive packages in FY23, we actually funded that this year with the taxes. So we are paying that out over 2 years. So we have the money in hand to pay that out. That's why we felt like we could actually lower that, because we did increase the levy last year to provide for that. PEPL fund. So the recommendation, we're still continuing the board approved levy at 33 cents, and the voter approved is still in place for another 2 years, $1.34. Total levy is expected to generate about $4.3 million, okay? What do we use that money for? We use it for capital projects, parking lots, roofs, preventive maintenance, transportation vehicles, large equipment purchases. We also about $1.2 million in renovating the high school. We're paying off the debt on the bonds for that. We have 2 more years to pay that off. And that's kind of how we use the funds for out PEPL. Playground fund. This is what Shannon mentioned earlier about there's a bill to eliminate the playground fund. So we are expecting to generate about $340,000 from that. And you can see the types of things that we use that for. It's, obtaining our playgrounds, tennis courts, tracks. We actually are spending a good chunk of that money for the new tennis courts that we have on hand. So that's, and also we actually can use that to support community ed. So that will be a big loss. A place where we're going to have to make that up is in PEPL. And so, so that would be tough for our community or for a district. Debt service. Debt service fund is decreasing by 11 cents. That's totally based on the bond repayment schedules that we have for our GO bonds. That's totally a driver on that. So we only levy for what we are actually paying, for the next year. So next year we're looking at $5.4 million to pay bonds, and that's basically that's all we're levying for. So what's it look like for the actual dollars? You can see that overall we are levying $45.6 million. That's what it equates to, $1789. You can see the breakdown on 1.5 for management fund, and you can see playgrounds 340, debt service 5.4 million, and general fund is 33.9. Who controls it? board controls 23.5%. Okay? The items the board controls are the cash reserve levies, they control the board-approved PEPAL, okay, and they control management fund. That's what's board control. Voter is 23.3%, that's the debt service, and the voted PEPAL. That's what is controlled by the voters. And the state is the biggest share, is a driver of our overall property taxes, is controlled by the foundation formula through the state.
Hey, Dave.
Yeah.
We don't have the, and I don't know if this is the appropriate time to just ask about it, the income surtax. You know, we don't have that here, but is that a conversation that, you know, we had talked about it kind of last time, I think you came and presented. It's coming up.
Yep.
Okay,
Yes.
perfect.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about that coming forward. Yep. And property tax levy trend. I thought it was important to kind of show where we have been. There's been a time in the district we were over $20 in our overall levy. Back in 2010, you can see our levy was $20.23. So that has dropped significantly since then, and we've been pretty steady, you know, there for a period of time between 2015 to 2019. Jumped up in 2020, I think, with the sale of the passage of the bonds, payment of those for the intermediates, and then you can kind of see where we're at. Going up, projecting to go up. If you looked back at last year's presentation where we were, JT was projecting, he was projecting that this year would be at 1748, I think it was. But so we are higher, but you can see what the drivers behind that are. So I just wanted to kind of touch base on that. Because we are proposing an increase. I want to talk a little bit about valuations. Everybody is getting their valuations of their property taxes from their assessor and saying, you know, what they're doing, what the increases are. I do want to let everybody know that these, the tax rate and everything is based on 2022 assessments. 2023 assessments won't come into play till next year. So, but I do want to talk about, you know, a little bit about evaluations and what's currently in law to help minimize the impact of assessed valuation growth. So rollbacks. Rollback is the biggest component for residential property tax that helps minimize the impact of the assessed valuation growth. So assessed valuation increases do not necessarily translate to property taxes. It's not. It's it can, but it's not a direct correlation because you have rollbacks that come into play. Rollbacks can be applied to any class of property, although rollback on residential seems to get the most attention, rightfully so. That's what we all are worried about. So the rollback is a percentage as applied to the assessed value to convert it to the taxable value. Because when you get your assessment, you're not paying full value on that. You're only paying on the taxable value, not your assessed value. All property except ag and utilities is supposed to be assessed at market value. That's why everything, if you look at the home values that people are selling homes nowadays, that's what's the driver behind it. It's a market value. That's what's the driving force behind assessed value. Property tax after the application of applicable rollback determined by class of property tax. Some of them are determined by a formula, and some of them are determined by law, like commercial is 90%, industrial 90%, industrial is 90%. Those are set by code. Credits, you get homestead and military reduces taxable value, not assessed. How's it calculated? You can see that we talked a little bit about that. There is one thing that you want to look at is residential and agricultural. There are some controls in how much, as a class, I want to say as a class, not an individual house, as a class overall in your area, it's residential and agriculture cannot grow any faster than each other. They're kind of tied together. So they said the overall limit is 3% as a class. So you're, as a class, individual property owners could have see a greater than 3% growth in their property taxes, but as an overall, it's going to be around 3%. How's it calculated? Here it is. So a $2,000 house. I'm doing a side-by-side comparison for the current year and proposed next year. So you can see a $200,000 house, the FY23, the rollback was 54.13%. And so you can see the value is $108,000, $260 less at homestead is a net valuation of 103. Multiply that times the property tax levy divided by 1,000, you come up with 1795.09. Okay, that's the current year we're in. Do the same math. The rollback for next year is 54.65. You go down the line here, you can see the impact overall. Multiply by 17.89 is 1868.95. That's $73.86 difference. If you break that down by per month, it's a $6.16 impact on a $200,000 house. I think a lot of people like to see that and kind of equate how that will impact them personally. So I wanted to share that. Now, where would we have been if we didn't, last meeting, a lot of conversation about the cuts. Where would we have been if we did not make those cuts, okay? You can kind of see our general fund with the cuts, we're $104,275,199, okay? We apply the cuts that we put in, that actually saved us about $3.28 million, okay? So that, you can kind of see the side-by-side in the different areas where those would have applied. So it is something that we need to do, and without that, you can see that's a big driver on what our fund balance would probably have been impacted for this next year if we did not make those cuts. And now what do we, this is actually a breakdown what we're going to be adopting tonight. You can see that overall revenues and other sources for budget 2023-24, we're looking at revenue $141,422,688. If you add the fund balance in, you can see total resources of $179 million. And the breakdown of expenditures, total expenditures and other uses, $149 million, and ending fund balance of $30 million, which is total requirements of $179 million together. So that's what we're asking the board to adopt tonight as a certified budget. And the reason somebody might ask, why is the expenditures far exceeding the revenue a lot more? One of the drivers is actually our construction of the admin building. Those, you have the revenue, we got that revenue in this year, that applies in, and next year we're actually doing all expenses. That's a big reason why you're seeing the expenditures exceed the revenues by so much. How do we compare locally? And we threw a couple other school districts in there that are kind of in our range of size. So locally, we're at 1736, and college, let's talk about next year. College, Linn-Mar's proposing 1789, college is at 1661 flat, increase for them. Marion Independence flat, 18. Cedar Rapids is going down, 1467. They cannot increase the cash reserve, they're capped out, so they've levied everything they could, and so they weren't able to levy all of the special ed deficit. This is an example of a school district that could not, they were capped out. Iowa City is taking a big jump from 1493 to 1627. They too are in a big budget cut mode. I think they're cutting about over $7 million for this next budget year. Southeast Polk is a flat, they're at 1544, and so you can see the changes for each of those. Income surtax, you can see the school districts here that have income surtax. Marion has a 2%, and Cedar Rapids, Iowa City, and Southeast Polk have 5% for the current year. Now, if you look at, I know for a fact that Iowa City's income surtax for next year has dropped to 4% because of how the formula works. They generate too much money in the income surtax, and so they have to lower it, and you have to lower it by a full percentage point. And so theirs just dropping to 4%, but generally it would always be 5% once you hit that. So you can see the property tax, the income surtax equivalent, property tax equivalent on the income surtax For Southeast Polk, it's just a little over $1. Iowa City's $1.07. Cedar Rapids is $1.24. And Marion Independence 53 cents. That is, if they didn't have an income surtax, the property tax would be that much higher. So, so now you're asking Rachel about, there are two areas that you can do income surtax. You can do it on PEPL, you can do it on your ISL. You can't fully fund either, it's a portion. So you are looking at, when we actually go out for a vote for PEPL, our PEPL expires in 2 years. June 30, 2025, when we go out to vote, at that point in time, we can make a determination if we wanted to fund some of that with an income surtax at that time. And we can promote that and say, this is what we're going to fund part of that with. So
Would that be additional money then, though, or would it just be coming from a different place?
it's just a different pot.
Okay.
It's coming from income surtax. Part of it's being come from property tax, and part of it's coming income surtax.
Okay.
But it'd still be set at $1.34.
Okay.
But you can fund it differently.
Okay.
So,
So it would not generate, if we were to decide to use the income surtax rate, we can't use that to generate any additional funds. Is that correct?
you're not going to generate any more
Okay.
dollars. It's just a matter of how those dollars are coming to you, whether it's property tax or income surtax.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We're
So one-
essentially maxing our tax rate out, our total tax rate out by doing it this way.
Yes.
And it doesn't matter what bucket or how we do that. I have heard, though, that at least some individuals and families might prefer an income tax over a property tax because it might feel more fair for those that might have been in a property or an inherited property that continues to accumulate in value over time, but they don't have the current income to support that property because they're not making payments on it and they don't have current income, and so they're paying taxes on that. And so I know there's arguments both ways, but I'm curious what your
there is
thoughts are on
arguments
that.
both ways. I mean, when you're looking at an income surtax, that's anybody who pays taxes is, for income is paying for part of that. So right now, the property tax portion are people who actually own property are paying property taxes. Okay, on income surtax, part of that is hitting everybody. If you actually are earning income, that plays into it. Okay, so that spreads it over a little bit more people when you do that. But yeah, it does have a direct impact on our property taxes. And you can see for a district like us, our tax value per pupil is $322. So, and you compare that to College Community at $466 or Iowa City at $481. So when you have a lower taxable value per student, you tend to have higher property taxes because of that fact, okay? Because when you're asking for what it does for levying special ed deficit, that actually costs us more in property taxes than it would for Iowa City or it would for College Community, just because they have a greater property values than we do. So that's a direct impact. That's where the equity in a formulas show, because of property-rich districts actually, values actually drive down the property taxes more than for us for those types of things, like management fund. Your needs for management fund, that is, costs the taxpayers less at college than it does for us for our management fund levies, because they have more property. The main driver, a lot of that is commercial property. We are a bedroom community. We don't have a lot of industrial and commercial development in our district. That's why our taxable value per student is low.
And that's why college is where they're at too.
Correct,
Right?
absolutely. Yeah. So ADM and all of that is in College Community. So what's the next steps? Well, tonight is a public hearing. We had that already. And then we have to actually file our budget to the county auditor by May 1st and the Department of Management by May 1st. This is a date that got extended this legislative session because of the little snafu they had with the rollbacks. mistake that the state had, and they had to go back to the county assessors and have correct everything and then send that out, so they delayed. Typically, that would be April 15th is typically the date we have to certify, but they delayed that until May 1st. Any other questions?
I know this year's budget process was a lot more difficult with all the conversations we've had about cuts and all of that. And I just want to thank everyone for the extra time, the extra meetings, and this was very thorough, and we appreciate it. There are no questions.
I move to approve. Go ahead.
I move to approve the budget for fiscal year 2023, 2024 as discussed.
Second.
A motion by Mary and a second by Rachel. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Happy budget.
Thank you.
Motion to approve the open enrollment request as presented?
Second.
Second.
A motion by Melissa and a second by Sandra. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Move
Make
to
up-
approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion by Terry and a second by Rachel. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Under board communications, who would like to go to the May 4th Marion City Council meeting?
Matt.
I'll go ahead and
All right. Who would like to go to the May 18th city council meeting?
I will, since I'm volunteering other people.
I was going to tell you. It's up to you.
Okay, and let's go ahead and just be thorough. Who wants June 8th? I will do that one. Since I haven't gone in a while. I beg forgiveness. I turned it off during budget. I apologize. So that's Matt for May 4th, Rachel for May 18th. I will take June 8th. We have our final board visit. I'm looking for it on here.
May 4th.
May 4th, Lynn Grove. Is it on here? It's on.
Third one
Third
from
one
the
down.
top.
I see it, board visit. And if you have not RSVP'd, I think we all got our letters inviting us to graduation. Please make sure you RSVP. Let them know you're going to be there for the ceremony on the 28th. And I forwarded right before the meeting, I got an invite from Wilkins. They're doing their Leader Day on May 12th. We are all invited. I sent you guys that email. So, and the community is invited to that as well. If you want to learn more about Leader and Me, go to the Wilkins website or their Facebook page. I'm sure they have information on that May 12th. Does anyone else have anything?
What was that success center that?
A center graduation.
Yeah, graduation. What date?
They're doing that a little different this year. They're trying to keep it very small, so they're not really sending out invitations this year, strictly due to the comfort level of the students that are graduating this year. They do not want an audience. They prefer to have a smaller, more intimate with their family and, correct.
You would suggest that we not attend?
Correct. Yep,
Okay.
They base that
Thank
every
you.
year based on what the students' comfort level is and what their interests are. So it'll look a little bit different this year.
May 12th, in your communication to us, do we know what time?
If you click on the link, it gives a time. I believe it's 12:30 to 3.
Okay.
And there's a whole bunch of
Things going
stuff.
on. Okay, thank you.
So we recognized our Lions and Volunteer Award winners. The reception is May 3rd, and then the 100-hour volunteer luncheon is May 23rd. So those are some other upcoming things this month. Does anybody have anything else?
Yeah, I just would like to mention, I was privileged last week to attend and watch Linn-Mar student athletes compete at the Special Olympics held at Co. Want to give a shout out to all of those students for what they did that day. It was amazing to watch, and to also thank especially Ms. Ginger for all of the work she put into that. And because I know she worked hard, and all of the teachers and paras and parents that were there supporting our student athletes there.
Very cool,
Awesome.
Matt. Thanks for sharing that.
Stay tuned with that because we plan to recognize those student athletes at our next board meeting as well too.
Awesome.
So you've given us a little preview of what's to come.
Great.
So.
Great. All right, well, if there's nothing else, we'll move on to audience communications. So at this time, I'll call those who have signed up to speak to the microphone in order of sign up. The board will receive and acknowledge comments, but will not engage in a dialogue with the speaker because of the set agenda for the meeting. Remarks are limited to 3 minutes per speaker and should be shared in a respectful manner. James Thacker.
James Thatcher, Linn-Mar School District member. I'll start by emphasizing it's not you as a person. I'm addressing the board actions. That's what I'm addressing. On March 6 and 9, I sent emails to the board regarding 504 policy legal wording problems and provided sample policy language using correct legal language. I challenged kids to see if they could beat the adults. In front of each kid, one at a time, I placed a copy of Linn-Mar Policy 504 next to a copy of Iowa law regarding emergent care. I asked them 2 questions. 1, do these policies or do these documents match? And 2, in this sentence, and I picked out a specific sentence, each document has the exact same words except one which I highlighted. Which word isn't the same? Without exception, all kids got both questions right and identified the word emergency on the policy was different than the word emergent on Iowa law. Even the grade schoolers got that right. Yet after 6 weeks of having the same information I gave the kids and more legal language concerns I had, the board and the review committee came back with the exact same policy wording for a vote. On April 10 and 18, 3 board members projected their ignorance of the facts onto 1 board member who understood the issues. During this 18 minutes, 3 board members stated, Iowa law is literally verbatim to what our policy says. It's a mandatory policy. It's been vetted by all the professionals and legal minds. We don't have the expertise. We're going with the advice of the attorneys. You seem to not trust that the authorities in this area can give us good advice. Who are we to say we're better than attorneys? In frustration, the board president verbally out loud compared Iowa law to the policy, and oh my, recognized that the word emergency and emergent weren't the same, and on the spot made the word change for the vote. Not only did the grade schoolers beat you, they beat your attorney. If you think the job you have is to blindly trust and rubber stamp what your attorney says, you need to get another attorney. Because I know this board is at least as smart as a grade schooler, this is my conclusion of the facts. Except for Matt, the board fails to comprehend what you're reading. Except for Matt and Melissa. The board fails to comprehend what they hear. Melissa, I did recognize you understood what was being said that night regarding physical examination legal language. As a whole, the board may read and hear the words, but you're not processing, you're not evaluating, problem solving, or reasoning with the information you are being given. Therefore, I now believe those parents who tell me that the board doesn't listen to what they say are right, even though you may respond. Thank you.
Gary Foss.
Hi everyone, my name is Carrie Foss. We've lived in the Linn-Mar district for nearly 10 years, and we have 2 kids in our schools here. I think we're really fortunate to live in a place where every child, no matter their background, can have a free and quality education. And Linn-Mar has this because of the people doing the work every day. And in spirit of Teacher Appreciation Week, I'd like to acknowledge the hard work of our teachers, staff, administrators, counselors, and coaches. Every day our teachers are helping our kids learn foundational skills and knowledge that they'll take with them into the future. Our paraprofessionals help them out when they need some extra support. Personally, my husband and I are grateful for the reading support our daughter receives at school. Her confidence in her reading skills have grown over the past few months, and we're seeing a lot of progress. So we're just really thankful for the support she can get at school. Really looking at more of the fun side of what our kids get to do at school. Our specialist teachers and our coaches are really igniting the passion for arts, music, books, and sports in our kids. And I would say that that's not really available everywhere, just based on experiences other people I know have in their school districts. And that's because our Linn-Mar staff works so hard to help our kids be the best they can be in these activities. And they're not just having fun in these activities, they're learning so much about dedication, perseverance, and reaching goals, and those are skills they'll take with them into the future. I'm also really grateful for how seriously our district takes bullying, and I'll just share a recent example that actually just happened last week. Our daughter unfortunately experienced some bullying at school, and we were informed by the school counselor that day, even before she got home. They really took the situation seriously. The students were talked to that were part of the bullying. They were asked to apologize to our daughter, and their parents were contacted just to make them aware of the situation. Because of the way it was handled, our daughter felt supported, and she actually didn't seem to dwell on the issue even after she got home that day. And I feel like because it was taken seriously, she felt supported, she was apologized to, she accepted that apology. She just realized, some kids made some poor decisions, and she was able to move on. So I just really want to recognize the staff at Indian Creek Elementary for their work in taking that bullying incident seriously and really taking the district's stance on anti-bullying seriously. So to wrap, I'm just grateful for the education and opportunities our kids have in this district, and I want to thank the Linn-Mar staff and the educators for doing this important work every day and helping our kids thrive. Thank you.
Phones? Amy Hutchison.
This will be real quick. I just wanted to thank all of you for coming to our school last Thursday, I believe it was. Am I right? Last Thursday. It's just fun to have adults, different people in our building. It's a very special place to me. I've been there for a very long time, and just having you there is fun. And anytime you can, I know you're in your jobs and you're doing things out where it's really hard for you to come in, and so that takes time away, but it really meant a lot for the kids to see you there. It's exciting for them. It's exciting for me to have you there, and thank you for coming into the physical education class. There's going to be a great teacher there next year, and it's a very, very special place. I've had 4 different principals there I've been a part of, and each principal that has been there has been amazing people that have inspired me as the years that I've been there. I have always been very proud to teach at Indian Creek. I've always felt good there. Every time I come to work, it gives me energy, and the people that have been a part of my life will always be a part of my life. So Indian Creek is a very special place, and I'm glad you were able to come and be a part of it. Officer Dobbs has always been a very special part of our bike rodeo for the last few years, and so he's always been one of the stations, and it's just a very, very special place, and Linn-Mar is a very special place. I just want you all to know that I really appreciate you being a part of our family over there, and you are welcome to come anytime. And I know it's hard for you to come because of your jobs, but thank you very much.
Ends audience communication for the evening. Thank you all for coming. I will take a motion to adjourn. So moved.
To adjourn the meeting at
7:07.
7:07.
Second.
A motion by Clark and a second by Sandra. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned.